Good, you're recognized for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and I'd like to echo the remarks of the Ranking Member Fox a few moments ago about coming into the committee hearing in person, and I'd like to just let everyone know that the committee hearing room is Rayburn 2175. I've not seen anyone from the majority party in the committee hearing room since I got here a year ago, and it's comfortable and it's accommodating, and it'd be much more meaningful for us all to be in person here with our witnesses instead of hiding behind COVID and pretending that we're afraid to come into the hearing room because of that. But instead of discussing that, I'll move to my line of question, or further, I should say, my line of questioning here. I share the concern that's been expressed for our injured workers, but I'm also concerned for all the injured small business owners and their employees who've been hurt over the last year by these disastrous economic and fiscal policies of the Biden administration. Over the last 10, 11 months, we have seen historically high gas prices, grocery prices, and causing massive overall booming inflation from these policies. And that's hurting Americans all across the country. But instead of discussing that, my colleagues in the majority would rather discuss anything else. And that's because Congress is doing what it does best, making the problem worse. We're spending money we don't have and implementing damaging and dangerous policies to advance the radical Biden-Pelosi socialist communist agenda. And the Fed continues to accommodate by printing more money to pay for it. But workers across the country continue to pay more for their essentials, and what's left of their hard-earned savings is being robbed of its value as the federal government continues to devalue the dollar. This is not complicated, but our so-called experts in D.C. think they can lie their way out of this. However, Americans are not fooled because they can see and feel these rapidly rising prices. But the majority would rather talk about other things, but Americans need answers. So, Mr. Godfrey, does the Biden administration consider inflation to be an issue that's negatively impacting workers' compensation?
Thank you for that question. It is not my understanding that that is an issue that is before OWCP. No.
Do you think that the administration understands that rapidly rising gas, grocery, utility, and other prices are hurting lower income, middle income, and fixed income Americans, and frankly, disproportionately impacting the minority community?
I have no personal knowledge, but I would assume they do, yes.
Yeah, well, I would hope that they do, which makes it even worse if they do understand that, but yet continue to double down on these policies. Other than calling for more spending, which is obviously going to make the problem worse, what does the Biden administration plan to do to try to actually help them fix the problem?
Well, one of the things that I know simply from OWCP is the work on the longshore supply chain issue. What we've seen is since the introduction of the changes to the supply chain, especially at the Los Angeles Long Beach port, we've seen increased workloads. We've seen increased capacity. We've seen the shipping containers being moved following the recommendations of the administration. And what we've also seen is no increased workers' compensation claims because of that.
If I may interject, please, I'm glad you brought up the supply chain issue. Because this administration seems to think that these unconstitutional vaccine mandates that are currently thankfully being blocked by the courts are not only the answer to the inflation, they actually think that if we fire more workers, if we fire more people because they want to protect their own health care, protect their own bodies, protect their own health care decisions, if we fire more people, and so if we have fewer workers who will produce fewer goods, that'll somehow make prices go down. I need to lend them my high school economics textbook. In your view, Mr. Godfrey, are the Americans who lose their jobs because they want to make their own healthcare decisions, should they be entitled to compensation?
Are you referring to workers' compensation or unemployment compensation?
Just compensation in generally, should they qualify for that if they're being fired by the federal government, essentially, for wanting to make their own healthcare decisions? I mean, or said differently, do you think that firing millions of workers is going to help the inflation crisis?
That's outside of my purview as director of OWCP.
Yeah. Well, I want to move to another issue affecting workers' compensation and driving up the cost of fuel and utilities, not to mention threatening our national security and increasing overall carbon emissions because it's forcing us to purchase and ship energy from countries who hate us and don't have our emission control standards. This is the impact of the president's war on energy. We knew this was going to happen from the first day when the Biden administration put an end to the Keystone Pipeline. These radical climate policies are decimating American energy, driving up the price of fuel and utilities, and destabilizing the global economy. And unfortunately, I'm out of time for you to answer my questions. But thank you, Madam Chair.